Hey Nippers, it's me, Wild Neptune. Today, I want to go over Takina, do some testing with her, see if she's worth all your summons, or maybe if you are limited on what you can actually acquire, if you should skip or not. Anyway, let's get started. Alright, so here she is. I just only got her up to her overload gear, and I just got this little doll on her. I don't really have any materials to level this right now, unfortunately, so she's kind of stuck here on this little R grade. Now, she does do some okay personal damage, so unfortunately, like maybe a pure support, she will require a little more investment to get her online. Now, her lines, that being said, are not really that good, defense, whatever. Elemental damage, pretty good, 24% there, attack, but no elemental damage here. Again, so kind of lackluster lines. This one really sucks, so nothing really special, so don't expect her to do anything extreme. For testing purposes, all the DPS or everything will be getting either a Bastion or a Resilience Cube, just so I can keep it a little more baseline. Obviously, some characters will have better lines than other ones, just because, like everybody, I have no rocks. She's 677, 6'7", so, this is only because I ran out of manuals to get it to 777, unfortunately, so, there's that. And we will be comparing her with other Burst 2s in a simulated battle. So, let's get started with that. So the first team, I think that we should compare it to, is going to be pretty much the standard top-tier team, I believe. Well, I guess sometimes you want to take out Chisato and replace it with somebody else, but since Chisato is going to be paired with Takina quite a bit, I believe, I will have her right here. I do also believe that because Referee Red Hood is probably going to be the stronger character, she will be in the first position. Although, maybe you'll swap them from time to time. I don't know. Anyway, so, oops, what happened there? Okay, let's go back here. So we will just put on Little Mermaid, and we'll see all the lines right here. Again, nothing special, just kind of here. You have Crow. Her lines don't matter, actually. So, is that. We have, Rappy Red Hood here, with her lines right here. So, again, not really that great. Unfortunately, this elemental damage is pretty low. And then we have Chisato, who also doesn't really have the best lines ever. Although she does now have 4 elemental damages. So that's actually something to be a little bit proud of, I suppose. So just, just kind of working on it. And then there is Helm right here with her lines over here. So this is going to be, I believe, the standard base team. And let's go into this here and just see how this goes. And again, I do not expect Takina to perform, better, or even really that close to this setup here with Crown. And this is simply because, Crown is just so good that she almost invalidates other units, but we don't expect Takina to be a first team type support. Maybe we want to put her into the third team or something like that in a solo raid, which might be kind of a low bar for people, but we will see, right? And again, I'm doing it on full auto just because it takes out some of the crystal RNG here. Obviously, in some setups, you will have to manual, if you're running a masked helm type team, obviously. That's going to be something where, you will have to manually control your bursts and things like that. So, we will just let this keep going for a little bit, and we'll see the results in just a moment, so hold right on. Okay, so this is the end of the team results. and 6.2 billion right here. And as you see, Rapid Red Hood almost doubled Chisato, which is to be expected overall, especially with this huge power difference right here, like almost a 40,000 difference in overall power. So do consider that when we are calculating these and everything like that. But this is what, the bar that's being set for Takina. So all we're going to do here is we are going to simply replace Crown with Takina, and there we go. So we will go in and see how she does. So let's hop right in, and we will have a quick look overall on how she is going to perform here. And remember, this is just a target dummy. There are no mechanics or anything. Did she just going to do whatever that she's going to do? So there is going to be that going on, and we'll be right back with the results. So here are the results screen. See right here, a pretty big dip from the 6.2, a 1.7 bill difference, so quite a bit there. And you see the results right here. You see that Chisato and Rapid Red Hood are much closer in overall damage than last time, but that's only because Rapid Red Hood's damage drops significantly, because she doesn't really get that much of a boost from Takina, as opposed to Crown. Again, though, this video is not really meant to see if Takina is as good as Crown. Nobody expected that to happen at all. One interesting too, though, is that when you compare this here to the other result, is that Chisato's damage actually went down. Now, I think with the investment in Crown, because Crown is 10-10-10, compared to Chisato's 6-7-7, and everything like that, that was, again, to be expected to happen. But basically, everybody's damage just simply dropped because there typically isn't enough true damage Nikkes that are viable, or like even in the game, to really make use of Takina at the moment. At least in my opinion, maybe one day we'll have an entire team that's just like the true damage Nikke team, and in that case, Takina might be the best slot there. But as of right now, definitely not, at least not up to Crown's standards. But let's maybe try be a little fairer and try other burst 2s in place of Crown. So here we will be trying out the Yuta instead of the Takina or the Crown. I'll try for the lines. They don't really matter. They're not really that good. But again, they don't really matter because she is off element, so the elemental damage doesn't really help her at all. But here we go. We're just going to go in again. Exact same team. We will start in, enter the range, and just see how it goes. And again, we're going to skip to the results right now. Alright, so here's the results here. So 5.4, remember our best was 6.2. So actually pretty reasonably close overall to the Crown team. Now, here are the results here. You see Rapid Red Hood did get a much bigger boost because she does benefit from Nayuta, unlike not benefiting from Takina. And in fact, everybody's damage went up, except for Chisato, obviously, who benefits more greatly from the true damage buff that Takina gives. But let's compare it to the other test and see right here that, Chisato actually did a little bit, less damage overall, but everybody else did much better in the Nayuta comparison. So there is going to be that. And, a little bit to be expected. Once again, Nayuta is 10-10-10, and it's more investment overall. But still a pretty sizable difference. Now, it's probably not going to be the case where you'll be running things like Takina with Rapid Red Hood. You'll probably want to be running her with more true damage characters. So let's maybe switch this up a little bit and put her in a more realistic scenario. So I think the setup will be more reasonable and more what's to be expected, I suppose, of what you might bring her in for actual rating. Because let's be honest here, we're not going to be using things like Little Mermaid or stuff like that in a team with Takina or stuff like that. We already knew, like, even before she came out, most likely she was not going to be really that good. However, for a baseline, the first team will have Crown in it. And again, this just as a baseline. Also, I understand here that for the purpose of the solo raid, we might not even have both Takina and Laplace on the same team. So there is that too. Now, also, if you're wondering why I'm not testing Aid, Agent Bunny, that's because I simply don't really have her built. That's really all there is to it. But yes, here we go. Just in case you're wondering, here are the Laplace lines. Again, not really that great. Only 2 elemental damage lines, unfortunately. But, we'll take what we can get. So, again, this is going to be more of a realistic scenario in the types of teams that she's going to be bought in. Also with 2 true damage characters right here. So, let's just see how this stacks up. Here are the results. So 3.5 billion, so a pretty big dip, but to be expected since we're not using all the meta characters anymore. And here are the results right here. So you see we have, Litter, Crown, Chisato about 1.3, Laplace a little over 1, and all the others right here. So this, again, going to be the baseline, and trying to give Takina the best chance to perform well. So let's see how she does now that she's not being, I guess handcuffed a little bit by just characters that are much, much better than her, making it kind of look a lot worse. So anyway, and the results. So 2.4, really big drop from the 3.5 we had with the Crown. So see right here, the damage overall. So Chisato about 1, Laplace 6.7. Laplace's true damage is not that great, and on top of that, this boss doesn't have any parts, so damage will be naturally lower overall. Takina, about 450, and everything right there. Now, worth noting, these are the previous results, so Laplace benefited a lot more from the Crown, and the Crown also did some pretty decent damage herself, at least for a support unit. 630k is not that bad. In fact, everybody greatly benefited from the Crown since her buff is much more universal. But again, nobody expected that Takina would replace Crown at all. That was just a baseline, and the baseline has been about a 1.1 billion damage difference compared to 2.5. So a pretty sizable percentage power dip when using Takina instead of Crown, even with 2 other units that do some form of true damage. Okay, so 2.85. This is compared to about the 2.4-ish that was in the previous one with the with the Takina team. So let's look at the results right here and the damage overall. You see that Chisato 1.1, Laplace greatly got a little more of a benefit boost right there. And you see the differences here, right there. So not a huge boost overall. In fact, pretty similar. The real difference actually is that Nayuta did a little more damage. Now again, this is partly due to just power difference, stuff like that. I do think that because of the investment and stuff like that, the Nayuta team and the previous one we just saw with the Takina is going to be comparable, I suppose, at least with this current setup right here. So, not a one-to-one comparison exactly, again, because of investment, but at least based on this, you can maybe expect this little kind of jank type team to perform about as well with equal investment as a Nayuta setup, which I'll remind you might not be and probably is not the best team to use, but I feel like a lot of players are just kind of gonna toss something like this together for their like third or like fourth team in a solo raid and just see how that goes. Obviously, if it's somebody aiming for like 3%, you are going to be trying to min-max everything. And in that case, this video is probably not for you. This is just to give a simple baseline kind of on what you might want to expect from the characters. So the last team I wanted to really try is more of a mixed team. We have leader Nikke versus 2 with Chisato, Raven, and also with Privity in the off-burst slot. Obviously, sometimes you want her as a burst, sometimes you want her as an off-burst. Her treasure is not maxed out yet. I only have up to stage 2, but we're just going to see how this performs versus everything else. And for this one, we're not really going to compare Crown or anything like that, simply because we don't really have surefire activated for Crown. I suppose Leader sometimes can do it, but let's just skip to the end here and see how this one goes. So we're looking here at a 2.66 baseline. Not really that great, but the damage right here, you see, without the really true damage buff, Chisato does fall behind Raven, which would be expected. I think Raven, at least at my investment right now, remember, Chisato's only 777, Raven is a little more invested, I believe. It's going to out-damage it a little bit. So this is what we want to really try to aim for with the replacement for Naga in our next fights going on. So this is the technical result for the team at 3.3, almost 3.4. Remember, the last one was 2.6, so a pretty big boost over just using Naga. So again, this is going to be a lot to do though, with Takina just doing simply more damage, since her personal damage is not awful. And also see right here that when we compare the actual numbers with Chisato and Raven, that Chisato's numbers have greatly increased. In fact, pretty much a 1 bill from the Naga team to a 1.25, so pretty much a 25% increase, a little bit more. And actually, Raven's damage also went up a little bit, most likely because of the maybe, I don't know, like probably within margin of error though, so probably about the same overall. In fact, it looks like just about everybody's damage went up slightly, or at least stayed very similar. So, yeah, I mean, not many people are going to be using Naga anymore as their primary burst 2 anyway. So this is just basically aimed at really, like, I would say, newer players. And I'll be honest with you, if you're like a really newer player, somebody like Takina might not be on your immediate needs. However, she's a limited character and a collab character at that, which does add a little emphasis on possibly wanting to get her. So, finally though, we are going to try this out one more time with Nayuta. Here are the results of the Nayuta team. So about 3.85, about, I would say, 400-ish more, 350 than the Takina team, with our damage right here. They're doing okay damage, and the Raven really piled it on in comparison. Just in case you forgot, here is the comparison to the other one. So a little bit of a similar performance from Chisato, actually. A little bit less, actually, overall with Nayuta, but Raven definitely got a much bigger boost because this is benefit really from the true damage boost that the Takina gives. Now, again, I want to, re-emphasize that Nayuta is 10-10-10, Takina is 6-7-7, which is going to pretty much make up a lot of the difference here. So, I do think, like, just numbers-wise, everything like that, just based on what I'm seeing here, that Nayuta, at least in a lot of teams like this, if you have Chisato on the team, is going to be pretty similar to Takina in terms of their overall added damage to the team when all is said and done. So here's a quick recap and comparison for the first set. Remember, that was Little Mermaid, Rapid Record, Helm with the Crown and Chisato also. So obviously the one with Crown is going to be the most damage at 6.264 billion for the fight. The Takina team was 4.5, or that's 72.21% of the damage that was done by the baseline team. And then the Yuta team did 5.5. I actually forgot to screenshot the damage for the first one, so I redid it, and it came out to a pretty respectable 88.71% of the Crown team. Now, again, like I've been saying, this is with pretty low or average investment on the Takina, but probably not enough to make up this much difference. But again, this was pretty much one of the worst case scenarios for Takina overall, and I do know, as we saw before, that her numbers get a little bit closer to Nayuta as we go through a few more of the simulations, so let's look at those comparisons too. This is the second test, and see right here, with the leader Crown, Chisato, Laplace, Naga team, the baseline was 3.479 billion. The Takina team did about 70% of that damage, and the Nayuta team about 82% of that. So still a pretty reasonable gap in percentage-wise, at least, in terms of the damage done, but definitely something I think that Takina can close in on with a little bit more investment. Now let's compare the final set of fights that we did right now. So this is the last fight we did, and again, I think this is more reasonable in what you might expect. So the first one, we simply used Naga as the burst 2 at 2.66 billion, and as expected, the other teams with Takina and Nayuta did outperform it by quite a bit. The Nayuta team did 3.8, or about 144% of the baseline, and the Takina team did 3.3, about 126% more than the baseline. Again, to be expected here. And again, I do think that with some more investment, the Takina would be around equal, maybe a little bit better than Nayuta overall for right here. So yeah, those are just the 3 battles that we did, and some of the testing and some of the results. So take that as you will. Obviously, in this video, I couldn't test every single thing. I don't know if all the characters built. Obviously, things like Ada, Ayn, Bestie tactical upgrade, even Julia is going to have some true damage potential. Some of them more viable than other ones, obviously. I feel like things like Bestie, even though she just do good, true damage, because she's really more of a story clearer, she's probably not going to be paired with Takina that much, and that's only because it's really hard to justify using Takina over Crown in any scenario that you can. So there's that. Also, Julia is not built because she's Julia, unfortunately, and my Ada Wong is not built just because I don't really have any resources to do that, unfortunately, too. So obviously, I think Ada with Takina is going to be one of the biggest combos after Chisato. So just keep that in mind there, that there is kind of more use cases overall. But there just isn't enough true damage characters right now where I can say that she's definitively a must-pull, or even a you-should-pull type of character. Now, bear in mind, though, that there is that new cube that just came out. Where we go here, it's the Rupture Cube. It is the one that increases true damage right down here. Now, unfortunately for me, I am still working on getting my resilience to 13. And I think after we do that, I'm going to start working on maybe another level of Quantum, and then go probably into Tempering or Destruction or something like that, in order to try to get some of my other cubes a little bit leveled up to have a little more of a wider breadth of what I can do with my account. But I don't know, maybe we will see more true damage characters in the future in order to take advantage of Takina's unique type of buffs. So this gets down to the question, should you be spending your resources on Takina? Obviously, if you have a lot of resources and you just want to, yes, you should. Not because she's good or anything, but because she is a collab character, and this collab is likely never going to come back. I say likely because there is a very small, minuscule chance it will, but most likely it will not. So this might be your only chance to get her. As somebody who started late in the game, I'm lamenting the fact that I will never probably get the Chainsaw Man characters or the V-Zero characters, even though right now they are, not really good. I just kind of want to have them for the collection. I know that not every player can do that or wants to do that or afford to do that. But if you're one of those types of players, obviously this is going to be a pull for you. In terms of actual meta, is she going to be the best character? No. You just saw that she is completely stomped by some of the meta characters. However, pursuit characters. However, I do think that specifically, if you are a solo raid type of player, especially if you have an account that can build it up like immediately almost, that you probably do want to have her for at least the next, certainly this current Iron Solo raid, but maybe even the next couple of Iron Solo raids too in the future. And this is because her performance, again, seems similar on par to somebody like Nayuta, who, even though she's not going to be strong element for Iron raids, has been considered to be one of the best burst 2s in the entire game. So that's pretty good, I think. And from other tests I've seen people do, she does seem to be do a little bit similar to other mid upper tier burst 2s like Bunny Aid and stuff like that. Also, now again, she's a lot less flexible than those characters. Like, you can just plug in Bunny Aid or somebody like Nayuta to a lot of different teams. Takina does require to have more specific units to have, so it does kind of limit her overall team she could be on. But nobody really expected her to be a 1A type team, even a 1B type team, right? We always expected her to be okay, yes, this might be your third team or your fourth team that you're going to be using in your current solo raid setup. And if she even break into the fourth team as a damage boost overall, even a 3 to 5%, for some players, that could be the difference between getting into 3% or not overall. So it's worth considering there. For everything else though, for story, PvP, if you're not worried about things like doing solo raid content or I guess guild or union content, stuff like that, then she's probably not somebody you really want to get unless you are concerned about the collab and her being limited overall. So that is just my take. I don't think that she is particularly a really good unit, but I don't think she's also an awful unit, just kind of middling overall. Now, do keep in mind too that in a couple of months, there will be the half anniversary, and so I don't know, she might get power creeped, something like that. Shift Up used to have very meta collab units, but they've been slowly being power crept out shortly after we get them. Now that being said, both Asukas were good for a very, very, very long time. Rei has been good, and in fact maybe even better right now. We have two collab characters from the last collab in Raven and Eve, who are still probably both going to be used in this current solo raid going on right now. So you should at least expect to have some usage out of Takina, and especially out of Chisato, because Chisato is actually a pretty solid unit overall. But even Takina, I suspect, will have usage in solo raid at least through maybe even the end of the year. So do consider that when you consider if you want to pull her or not. But anyway, I think the most important question is, with this skin, why is she holding this water bottle and then she drinks the Capri Sun? Also, it's where is it even coming from? Where is she hiding the Capri Sun here? Anyway, so that's all we have right now. I'm Neptune. It's been a good one. Till next time.